In this video, we are going to look at the tailored diagram feature in Cloudockit. You can use Cloudockit to generate diagrams of your different cloud infrastructures right now, and we have static diagrams that could be used. So we have the global, we have one organized by workloads, by resource groups, and then based on the different workloads that you will have selected, these diagrams get generated based on that. So, but we wanted to take things a step further with your diagram generation needs. We do understand that sometimes you might want to have a complete report of your entire cloud infrastructure, but as far as diagrams perspective go, you may only want to focus on specific aspect, such as virtual machines and network interface cards. But then you would have to have one generated with the tool automatically, and then clean it up afterwards so that you just focus on the elements that you need. So that's exactly what we did with tailored diagrams. So we went ahead and gave you the tools to be able to build your own diagrams from the ground up so that you can only select the specific components that are relevant to you and have that showing up in your document generation. So the way to go about generating dynamic diagrams, so the first step is to select the platform that you want to document. Then the second is you go under Documents and under Diagrams here. You press the tab to access the diagrams options here. The top portion remained the same. So as far as types of diagram, we still have 2D and 3D icon diagrams. Diagrams that can get generated is global by workload, resource group, location, and applications. So anything that is checked here is a diagram that does get generated in the zip file that the application generates. And then here is the Tailor diagram section. So this is where the magic happens, and you can actually come in and create your custom template for your diagram. So we have a few columns here: diagram name, which is going to be the unique name of the diagram you created, description, and diagram components, which is going to list all of the different components you've listed and that are actually showing in this diagram. So let's go ahead and create an example here. So I'm going to press new template. This opens my Tailor diagram window. So name, let's name this Tailor diagram. As far as description, you could give it a unique description based on your company's policies. And then the bottom part of the screen is divided. To the left, you have all the list of components, and then to the right are the components you have selected to build your diagram. So here we've given you additional filters. So you can filter by type, which is the naming of the different workload groups that we have. So anything from security management, compute, databases, storage, and so on. And then you also have to the right, group name, which means that you can actually create a group name and have components dropped into this group name directly so that everything will be grouped within the same frame once you do your diagram generation. So here, let's go ahead and select virtual machines. So I can either go about scrolling down all the way to virtual machines and selecting it from here, or I could focus my search on compute so that I only have compute components that display, and then I can enter virtual here to grab my virtual machine. And as you can see, we have some components here that have a blue icon to the right and some that don't. What this actually represents is that my virtual machines here has some dependencies associated with it. So these are additional components that you can check and that will display in your diagram generation process. So here, to be able to add this to our diagram, we just need to click it, slide it to the right. And then we have, since it has dependencies, as I just mentioned, you have a pop-up that actually asks or lets you select these dependencies if you want them to show in your diagram generation, or we can just leave it as is and pressing cancel. I'm just going to go ahead and select disk, data disk, and network interface. I'm going to press add. So you see that my 3 dependencies were added within visual machines, which means that everything that is involved in there is going to be regrouped together in my diagram afterwards. So, all right, I went ahead with virtual machines. Next, I actually want to select subnet. So I'm going to grab subnet. Our subnet has dependencies as well. So let's see what these are. So I have IP configuration, service endpoint, and network interface. Not looking for anything as far as that one is concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and press cancel. And lastly, let's say that I want to focus on storage accounts. My storage account have dependencies as well. I'm going to slide it to the right. So here, as far as dependencies, I have virtual network, I have table, and I have container. So once again, I'm just going to leave it as is and press cancel. All right, so now that I have identified all of the components that I want to see in my diagram itself, let's say that, this is the order I've put them in, but I want to rearrange this. So I'd rather have subnet all the way to the top. So what I can do is I can just click on subnet and slide it to the top so that this one comes to the top, and this one will show at the top of my diagram once I generate it. So virtual machine will come next. That is good. And then I will end with storage account. But I would prefer to have network interface under subnet than virtual machine. So I'm going to click on network interface and then slide it within subnet so that the network interface will show up at the subnet level instead of showing up at the virtual machine level. All right, so this is the final order that I'm going to go with. So let me save this layout. There, my save diagram was successful. And so my window here is refreshing, and I now have my Taylor diagram that is available, and I can select to generate when I do my document generation. So same as before, any box that is checked is actually a diagram that gets generated. So here I would have these 5 generated in 2D as well as in 3D. So if I want to add my Taylor diagram to the bunch, I'm going to press on Taylor diagram here. I do not want to have these additional ones running right now for the sake of this demo, and I am going to go with 2D diagrams for now. Okay, so now I do not want any reports. I'm focusing on Visio. Same thing for it works on Draw.io and on Lucidchart as well. Just gonna leave them unchecked for now. And we are set to generate. So let's press on generate. And here is the results of our diagram generation. So you will have at the top, so the name that you've given your diagram is the name that you will see for the file. So here I have Taylor diagram. And then our tabs are working as before. So we have our Cloudockit tab at the beginning, which lists all of the different components, which each of them represents. And then I have my tab for Taylor diagram. So clicking on it, so this lists as we organized in the previous step. So you have your entire subnet here with the network interfaces in it. And then you see that this subnet is actually related to this network interface and how this network interface is connected with this virtual machine. And we'll see the hard drive here since we've selected also the dependencies that we had for virtual machines, and all the way to the bottom, then we have our storage accounts that were selected. So no storage accounts are actually linked to any of the other components. So that's why each icon is its own square itself. And also compliance rules have been enabled for this one. So that's why you have these little red icons that represent that some rules are getting violated when it comes to the subnet or it comes to the virtual machines level. So pressing on the icon, you will see what the name of the rule is, and you can work with the word report that gets generated to get additional information. And this is how Taylor diagrams work in Cloudockit. So have fun testing it out, and thanks for watching.